this is where if you come off as like, well, I really want this job so that I can be better at this. If it's about you, you're not getting an interview.
Welcome to the show, Allea Grummert. She's an email marketer and conversion copywriter. I brought Allea here on the show today to talk about hiring and standing out as a virtual assistant, as an independent contractor or freelancer. And let's start with one of your, what did you see that people were doing wrong? What was something good?
Let's explain my process. So I've got the job posting, and at the bottom I have an application. We usually have a date that it closes. So the application, they fill it out, email, all of that. The follow-up email says okay, here's your next step. And I have a little tiny test project that's related to the role. And it usually requires them having to send me an email with a specific subject line and a link, the end, right? Easy. I get so many people who don't do the test project. I need some sort of proof that you can follow instructions. Right. I need some sort of proof that you're going to be relatively good at this role. So I'm not doing it as a business owner. I'm not trying to steal work from you. Everybody gets the same test project. That is one example. So it's not a huge thing. It's maybe a 5 to 10 minute task. So I guess I want to get that across that as business owners, we're doing this to actually measure your skill set.
This is not creative brain work. This is not copywriting. This is not a blog article or a social media post to turn around and reuse and not pay you for. This is a mechanical, logistical, can you follow directions step.
So I went through a list of 25 that my OBM had narrowed down, and I went through each application, and she even had notes in there. She's like, they did this bit wrong, and it's kind of up to me whether to give grace or be and it's nothing personal. It's just that if I have 25 applications I'm going through, I'm looking at that and I'm looking at your application details. Now that's the other thing. Tailor your application for the actual job.
You have to put the effort in to make that application relevant to the job, no matter what job, in person, online. You can't just slap in a resume and call it good. You've got to take the energy to pull it out, update your portfolio, update your one sheet, I don't do resumes, but you know what I mean? You've got to tailor it. You can't just do this blanket generic thing. And this is what I've been doing my entire career, is making me look the perfect fit for that job.
So before we actually scheduled interviews, I scheduled 10-minute calls with the narrowed down applicants for two things. One, to confirm that they were good with the rate of the job, so money. The other is that they understood the actual role. I had a lot of people apply for this role mentioning copywriting and mentioning email setup and strategy and project management, none of which are part of this role.
That is going to be a flag for you, because you don't want to hire somebody, work with someone who wants to do something else. Long-term, not a great fit.
But yeah, some of the things we look at to really narrow down the applications from the get-go is, did you do the test project? I do look at available hours. I do look at time zone, but it's interesting because I've got people who applied. So I did these little 10-minute calls, and I've had people interested in both roles. And I've just had to say this one is time-based, task-oriented, for the virtual project assistant. But if you're wanting to do project management someday and really have room to take ownership over things like a ConvertKit migration or re-engage with people, I am all about giving those opportunities to the people who've proven to be loyal and do their tasks and do them well. So I'm if that's the direction you want to go, it starts here. But if you don't want to do client work, then maybe that's where marketing is.
It's not hard to stand out in this space at all. There are so many people who don't show up for the kickoff call, never answer things timely, who you can't trust, who disappear, who have all the excuses. If you show up and do the work you say you're going to do, I can teach you digital marketing.
Yes.
Easy. I cannot bring that work ethic to the table for you.
So I've had a couple people do this, and I appreciate this. They're like, can you give me more details about why I wasn't chosen? I guess people aren't replying to them to give them answers. And they say, you're one of the few people who's actually replied and given me feedback.
Okay.
Be a good employer and be kind.
Okay. So now you have these 10 people or so that have followed the directions, are error-free. How do you handle it after that?
So I went on these, what do we call, vibe check calls. They don't know that. They will know if they watch this, but it's a 10-minute call to make sure that the pay is good, the role is good. I was able to kind of ask some preliminary questions like availability. I went a little hog wild and gave the interview scheduling link to all of them, because I'm you're all great. And I have a hard time narrowing it down. And that's really not the point of the vibe check call. Part of it is, this is where if you come off as well, I really want this job so that I can be better at this. If it's about you, you're not getting an interview. Well, even in my applications, I ask, why do you want to work for Duet? And if they say anything about like, because someday I want to start an email marketing copywriting business. I'm sorry. I'm not here to train you up to be my competitor. Like, and for me, it's always more about my clients. It's more about getting to do good work. I think that we were designed to do work and to, be able to use our passions and to be kind and to help people do more good in the world. So like, that's what I want to hear more of than you wanting to build up your resume.
And also, can you tell when people are being fake?
Honestly, I don't know if people are taking the time to try and lie. Part of it is like, guys, if you're not Googling proper nouns, it drives me nuts. Just like things like capitalize Google, capitalize Acuity, capitalize ConvertKit. Like I'm literally comparing your application to other people who come off way more professional. Because if I'm ever going to let you email the clients directly, I need to trust that you're not going to be sloppy about it. And I remember doing this, like when I worked in video production, when we would hire for new people, like we have to work as a team. We have to. And so if anybody is here for their own personal gain because of where they're going to take their career, that's hard for me. So after we did these little like vibe check calls, the goal was now we're going to do interviews. Now the interviews, and this is something that like I'm still doing some research on, like making sure I'm asking the right questions because I really need answers to help me differentiate who's good fit and who's not to go into the next phase. So then once we go through that, then Liz, my project manager, and I will narrow it down to probably like 2 or 3 people. And this was not my idea. This is my business coach. But then what we do is we hop on a call where they do a test project live. Like I'll be on Zoom with them for 30 minutes while they do this thing. And then at the end of 30 minutes, they tell me, they walk me through. I have yet to figure out exactly what that would be for this position. And then from there, I just have to kind of go with my gut probably to make the decision. I will say what's cool about the hiring thing, another thing my business coach gave me was a scorecard. So basically like, here's the question, here's the answer we want. And then we give them a score based on how closely they align to what we're looking for, right? Because next thing you know, you're going to be like, well, they're good at all these other things. And it's like, that's not what
we're But you're getting distracted. Yeah.
Set that bar before you even do the interviews.
Yeah. So you can be like less emotional about it. You kind of realize when you realize that if you were applying for, I don't know, University of Oklahoma, when I applied for them, like I had to use the right keywords in the right spot to get past the bots. Like there's a name for that. I wrote about that for a client. Can't think of what they are, but you've got to follow the directions to get to the next level. And I had some people in my work group kind of complaining about this. And if it's a long project, yes, if it's copywriting, if it's creative, subjective, it is fair to be charged for that. I know people who do that. What you're talking about is not offensive. It's not hard. You guys have to play the game. Think of it as a weed out process for you to stand out because 75% will weed themselves out.
I did have one gal create a couple social media graphics for me for the marketing role, which is like 2% of the role. So not like super applicable, but man, I appreciate that she took the extra mile. Like created 2 social media graphics from a blog post I did, and I said duet or whatever, and I was like, look at you. Like, that stands out to me. And I will say, when I hired Laura a year and a half ago, I needed one person who could do everything. Now I've narrowed it down into 2 specific roles. That being said, your other skills that would be helpful, include that in the question of like, is there anything else you'd like to share with me? So like, that's where you can say, in addition to all of this, I'm developing skills in copywriting and email platform setup and learning how to pitch events. If that's something that would ever be helpful to you, just let me know. So it's like, you're not trying to sell me on things. If I'm looking for somebody to be the catch-all and I see that, I'm like, oh, shit, great. Then I don't need to hire a marketing person. I can just hire one person to do it all. So just, employers are looking for different things. And if you do have additional skills that could help them, like there's usually a place to put that.
You didn't have anyone like cold outreach. It was all through the application, right?
This is the other big annoyance was that I would get emails from people who would say, I saw you in Emily's group. And they would send me an email saying like, you can book a call with me here, or you can learn more about my services here, which I appreciate from an employer standpoint, but I have an application. I have a process. And I'm going to need you to follow it. If you're reaching out to me because like so-and-so introduced you to me on Instagram, then you can send an email like that because you're probably the one person to do it. But I had 50 applicants and I probably had 10 people email me saying, I saw this job posting, like, can you tell me more about it? And like, yeah, so it stinks because I'm like, yeah, you might be a great person who can do this, but I need you to go this way. Like it's for my sanity. My sanity and my organization. It's not just one person you're looking at the applications, it's 2.
You open those floodgates, you lose things. Like I tell a lot of my students, I'm like, don't DM me in the middle of the course with your questions. Like it might not get answered. I have a path for that to make sure you get taken care of, and you got to follow the path.